It is estimated that 111.3 million people watched the Super Bowl last year. Not as many people watched the BCS National Championship for college football, but it is still a large number that some people don't take serious, especially when the game is a one-way road. Almost everyone out there has his or her favorite team for a sport. It is something that a lot of people enjoy watching to get away from things, and is always something that will make you happy, of course, to your team is the one losing. Sports is a way to bring people that don't know each other closer together. It is like a second family, if you will. Personally, I think the ranking system we use now to determine the top teams is perfectly fine. In this speech, I will explore college football's pastime before the BCS, also known as the Bowl Championship Series, the BCS itself, and the new and supposed to be improved playoff system. Let's begin with before the BCS. Before the BCS, there was something called National Championship Trophies, which started in 1890. There were polls that were used to vote for the teams in each conference to determine who was the best. The AP poll was run by the media and who they thought was the best teams in each conference. This was a one third vote. The coaches poll didn't start till the 1950s and selected the top 20 teams. This poll was, as stated, ran by coaches and who they thought was the best team in the country. This is a two-thirds vote. Teams would only play in conference games. They only played teams inside their conference, so the SEC would never play the ACC. This would have made shorter schedules so they didn't play as many teams. Their championship game was based on the two best teams in each conference, playing each other to determine the best team in each conference. Let's move on to the current BCS system. After the national championship trophies in 1998, they made the BCS, also known as the Bowl Championship Series. The same polls are used today to determine the best teams in the country. The AP poll is still run by the media today. Now, they release the team ranks before the season starts based on how they did last year and how many returning players the teams will have that played a role the year before. It still counts as a one-third vote. The coaches poll today is a one-third vote. This is still used today and is one of the more effective polls used. There aren't problems with this poll, unlike the computer poll. The computer poll, which is the worst poll used in the country, is also a one-third vote. It's a newer vote because they used to not have computers back when they had the current national trophy system. This has people always on the edge of their seats when it is released. A team could have just lost to a team that isn't ranked, but the computer likes a team, so they won't drop a rank or they'll drop a few. It is based off of the stats a team puts in during a game, so there is a lot of problems surrounding it. Teams today play people in different conferences. They always have the season opener in a neutral place, and it's usually in the place that is good for recruiting later in the season. This is just saying that SEC could play ACC or other conferences inside the division. In the BCS, the top two ranked teams will go to the BCS championship game. This is the biggest game of the year. It's like a smaller Super Bowl. This determines who's the best team in the country is. And there are also three other bowl games for the next best teams to play in. This era started when the director of the SEC decided to be gutsy and make a game that could have been huge or ruined his career. This game would have been known to everyone as the game that changed the game. It was Alabama versus Miami. That year in the BCS championship game, Alabama was considered the second best team in the nation and Miami was the first. Alabama went on to win that game, and ever since, the game has been played by the two best teams in the country. In the future, we will have a playoff system. In 2014, the NCAA is going to change from the BCS to playoffs. There isn't much known yet about the college playoffs, but that it will be a 4-team playoff to be the new big game. It is said that there will be 6 bowl games, including 2 playoff games. Someone from each conference will have a chance to make it to the playoffs, but only if their record shows that they are worthy. A bunch of people fear what might happen if the playoffs start and people don't like the way it is run, and they might have to go back to an old way of play. Everyone is hoping that this new system will work, especially since the trophy was not likable and the BCS was not likable. So the playoffs are most likely not to be likable, especially since the concerns that people that could have a tied record in each conference, one of those teams might not be able to go, and they won't play for it. So that's a thing that people are kind of worried about will happen. And as you can see from the past systems and the one to come, college football has done a lot of changing over the years. I hope my speech today has offered you some insight on how the game of college football has changed over the years from before the BCS itself, and the new and supposed to be improved playoff system. I hope that you can respect the game more that you know how it's changed. Your actions can determine how the playoffs will work. The more complaints the NCAA receives, the more they are required to look into how they can make the game enjoyable again. Never be afraid to let people know what you think about something.